Hello guys, I hope you're doing well. So today we are going to create these button tooltip hover effects. As you can see here, when I place on my Instagram, it has a tooltip up here. When I place on my LinkedIn, when I place on my GitHub. So how do we create these using HTML and CSS only? That's what I'm going to show you in this video. So first and foremost, you'll have to go to Font Awesome. And for Font Awesome, you're going to create an account. After creating an account, come here to the place that's written your kits. Why do you have to create an account with Font Awesome? So that you can get these amazing icons that they offer for free. So I've already created an account, and this is my my link so that I can access. It's called the toolkit, so that I can access those amazing icons. So copy that link and you'll paste it at your HTML at the head section. So this is my VS Code. Here at the head section, that's where I'm going to paste. I'm going to paste my script so that whenever I use their icons, it's going to be possible to use the many icons that they offer. Okay, so let's start. So I've created two files, button.html and another one, button.css. So I've linked here in this line of code. It links my HTML and my CSS code. Okay, so we are going to start. So first and foremost, I'm going to create a background div. So .background. And after creating my background div, inside I'm going to create a box div. Okay, so and this box I'm going to, let me call it first and foremost GitHub space box. And then inside the GitHub box, I'm going to now have the tooltip, now that tooltip that appears on top of the icon. So I'm going to say .github.tooltip. Now the tooltip name will be GitHub. And then we're going to have a span. Now this span, it's going to cater for our icons. So after creating an account with Font Awesome, you'll go to their website. You can come here to icons, and on these icons platform here, icons, you can search as many icons that you want. For example, we want the GitHub icon. So we'll come here to icons, and then you can search here GitHub, and then you place search, and then you will get the GitHub icon and the link of that code. So just a moment, it's searching. Okay, so this is my GitHub. I'm going to use this first one because it's for free. I don't usually create pro accounts. So this one is the code. So I'll go back to my VS Code and then I'll paste it here, that code. So when I click save, now we can come here and check our file here. As you can see, there's the GitHub icon. So that is the function of that Font Awesome. It provides icon. So I'm going to copy this. I don't want to keep typing. Then I'm going to paste it 3 times. So if you want to edit 2 things at the same time, you hold on Alt, then you place the place. So you place there. So I want the Instagram one. So Instagram. As you can see, it's editing these 2 places at the same time because of placed on the Alt. So here I can also type Instagram, and then I'll come back here and say LinkedIn. So I'll hold Alt and then I come and tap here. So I can also hold Alt and tap here. So it will be 3 places at the same time. So I can write the LinkedIn like that. Okay, let me just change here, LinkedIn, capital L and then capital I, LinkedIn. So let me click save, and then we can go and check our code. So that is where we are. Okay, so I want to split the screens like that. Okay, so now let's continue so that you can see the changes as we continue. So first and foremost, I'm going to style our background. So let me Control C, then I come here. Then this star, it means the entire document. So I want, for the entire document, I want a padding of 0. These are just the default setting. Padding 0, box sizing 0, border box 0. Then font family, sans serif. So here I had copied, let me just come back here on top. I had copied some, these are the color codes for the LinkedIn, the color code for the Instagram, and then this cubic bezier, I'll explain what it does. So let us continue. So let me Control save. Okay, now let's style our background. So I'm going to come back here, copy paste this background. Then since it's a class, I'm going to use dot and then background. So we're going to style a background. So I want everything to be at the center, here at the center of this page. So first and foremost, I'm going to display flex. So for background, display flex. So that is what flex does. And then I'm going to say justify content center, align item center, justify content center, align item center, align item center. Okay, so it's there at the center, but I want it to be here at the center of this page. So what I'll do for this background, I'll give it a width of 100% and a height of 100 VH, the viewport height, so that this justify content, now it comes here at the center of the page. So I'm going to say width 100%, then the height 100 VH, 100 VH viewport height. Okay, so far so good. So far so good. And then we are going to style now. Next, it's our box. So as you can see in this class, this box, if I use the box as here in my style, it will style all of these other classes at the same style effect will happen on these other divs. But if I want to specify further whether it's this first box, now I can use the getter box. So I want this effect to happen on these other divs, so I'm going to use the box one. So dot box. So I'll come back here and I'll say dot and then box. So it will happen at all the three divs. So I want spacing between these things. So I'm going to say margin 0, it's for top and bottom, then 30 pixels for left and right. So at least there's some spacing. And then I'm going to display flex. So display flex. So if I display flex, these icons will come here on top. Okay, display flex. And then I want the flex direction to be bottom, flex direction to be column, and then justify content center, then align item center, align items center. Okay, and then I want the position of this box to be relative. Okay, so far so good. And then I'll come back here. What next? We're going to style the tooltip. So I'm going to Control C the tooltip. Now the tooltip, it's for this GitHub, Instagram, and LinkedIn. So I'm going to come back here. Let me scroll down and then dot tooltip. So for our tooltip, we want it to have a background color of, let's first give it gray. So light gray. And then, okay, so it looks like that. And then we're going to give it a padding. Now padding, we're going to give it 12 pixels, 15 pixels. Okay, so far so good. Then border radius, we can give it a border radius of 25 pixels. Border radius, it's for smooth edges, 25 pixels. And then yeah, so far so good. And then what else? We can give it a position of absolute. Okay, and then for now, let's give it a top of negative 70 pixels so that you can see our icons, and then later on we'll return the top to 0. So top 70 pixels. Okay, so far so good. And then what else? Then just within the tooltip, there is something that was down here. It was like an arrow down here. So how do we create that? Now we are going to use pseudo elements. Now a pseudo element, the word pseudo means something which is not real. So we are going to create something. We're going to create an element, and then we're going to give it, that like a small width, let's say 15 pixels, and then we're going to rotate it. Let me just show you how do we create a pseudo element. So from that tooltip, then we say before. Now let's create our pseudo element content. It has nothing, so we will say like that. Then we give it a width of, let's say, 15 pixels. Then the height of 15 pixels. So background color, so that you can see our pseudo element. Let me just use red, and then position absolute. In position absolute. Okay, so this is our pseudo element. This is something we've created out of nothing. Okay, so we want it to come down here so that we can rotate it so that it looks like that arrow for maybe like messages. Okay, so we are going to give it a bottom of negative 13 pixels. Okay, so it's there down, and then we are going to rotate it. First, before we rotate it, let's say left 50% so that it comes to the center, left 15%, 50%, and then we're going to transform, then transform rotate. There's that transform rotate. So these are just the tricks. Transform rotate 45 degrees, 45 degrees. As you can see, yeah, it looks like that. And then we're going to, let's say, translate negative 50%, negative 50%, negative 50%. Okay, so it looks there right at the center. And then now, if we put the color back to light gray, see what happens. Light gray, light gray. As you can see, it looks like, you see those messages, how they look like. So that is what we did. We created a pseudo element. Pseudo means something which is not real. So, and then we width 15, height 15, and then we rotated it 45 degrees. Translate negative 50 to put it at the center of that element. Okay, so now we continue. And then what else are we going to add? Okay, nothing for now. We'll add other things later. So let's continue. After tooltip, we style what, or we style our span and then our icons. This I stands for, it means icon. Now let's go for our span. So I'm going to use the specificity dot background, then dot tooltip, then span. Now it means here we are trying to specify. So after background, we come to, we can say dot box, no, dot box, and then, sorry, yeah, so it's dot background, dot box, dot span. We are trying to specify, we are trying to style this span element. Now for our span, we'll say width 60 pixels. But there, a span, it's an inline level element. It's not there's a difference between a block level element and an inline level element. A block level element, it's something like a div. You see, a div, it occupies the entire width, but the beauty with spans, like you can use it inside other things. Like for example, you can place an icon inside a span, it will be on the same line. But if you place two divs, it will be on different lines. You can try to search the difference between a span and the difference between a div. But anyway, let's continue. So we're going to style our span. So width and height, we're going to give it 60 pixels, and then okay, so we're going to give it a background so that we see what we're doing. Background, let's say, just say light gray, light gray. So that's how our span looks like. And then we're going to give it a border radius, a 50% for circle. We're going to make it circle. That's what 50% does. And then we want our icons to be at the center. So we're going to say text align. Then we say center. So it will be at the center of our span element. Okay, so far so good. And then we can add some other things, for example, like a box shadow in outside of this span. So we're going to say box shadow. Now box shadow, as the name suggests, box shadow, it's a shadow. Anyway, let me not make it more weird. So box shadow 0, then let's say 5 pixels. This is the first thing. It's for the x-axis. This one, it's for the y-axis. So 5 pixels, and then 10 pixels for the spread. And then we're going to give it a color. So we can say RGB. We give it a color black. So 0, 0, 0, 0.1, 0.1, something like light gray there. Okay, so that's our box shadow. You can see it from a distance. Okay, not necessarily a distance. Okay, you get the point anyway. So we're going to continue. So after styling our span, I don't think there's anything else we're going to put. Let's go and see what's the next thing we're going to style. After now we style our icon. So we'll come back here. You can copy paste this, and then you copy, and then you come back here. Then you say I for the icon. Now for the icon, you can just say the font. is it the font size? Yeah, the font size, we can give it 30 pixels for our icon so that it becomes big. And then now if you want to center this icon, you're going to use line height. Now line height, you use it with the same height as the span that you use. So line height 60 pixels because our span was width 60, height 60, so the same height 60 pixels. Now everything is at the center of our span. Okay, so far so good. And then we can put some pointers. So here you can say cursor for our span, the cursor to be pointer. Okay, so when I pointed this, yeah, the cursor changes, it becomes a pointer. So far so good. Then let me come back here at my HTML document. What else do we? Okay, so we are going to now start doing some hover effects. So let us come down here. So when I point at this box or this span, I want my tooltip to show. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to remove this tooltip. So I'm going to say opacity is 0. I want to hide it first so that when I hover on this box, the opacity to become 1. So opacity is 0. All the tooltip, it's now hidden. So when I come down here, I will say, let me come back down here and say dot background, then dot box. Let me come down here, Control C, Control V, dot background, dot box. So when I hover on that box, I want what? I want my tooltip. So dot tooltip, I want it to do something. I want it to have an opacity of 1. Opacity of 1. So let me save. So as you can see, when I hover on our box, it has an opacity of 1. Now it's showing. Okay, so that's the first step. Opacity of 1. And then here in this line of code, what it means, this is the target element, this is the tooltip, and the target element usually has to be the child or that comes right after this hover. So tooltip, it's a child of the box. If you come back here to HTML, you can see how it goes. So when you're talking about this box and this tooltip, as you can see, the div, it's outside, meaning it's the parent, and then this one which is inside, it's the child. So the tooltip, it's the child, this one is the box. If you try to use, for example, span on here before this hover, it will not work. Okay, so this has to be the parent, and then the target element, which is our tooltip, it has to be the child element. Okay, so let us continue. So that is our opacity 0, and then I'm going to come back here and I'm going to say top 0. So top 0, not negative, so 0, and then here when I hover on it to become negative 70. So top, then negative 70 pixels. Negative 70 pixels. Okay, so let me do that so that we can see that change. Right now it's coming from 0 to negative 70. Initially here we put it 0 and here it's negative 70, but right now you cannot see that effect because it's going too fast. So for you to see the effect of that translation, we are going to come here and we are going to say transition. We're going to say all, then we're going to give it a time, so 0.3 seconds, and then our cubic bezier, this is where our cubic bezier comes in, this code that I put it here. So the cubic bezier, it gives a smooth transition effect to your animation. So we're going to paste it there, cubic bezier, on those values that are there. So let me save and then I'll see these transition effects. 0.3 seconds. Sorry, I pasted it at the wrong place. I pasted it at the tooltip, at the pseudo element, so it should be here at the tooltip itself. So I'm going to Control C, and then as you can see, if I hover on it, there's some transition effects. As you can see, it's like popping, coming up from 0 now to negative 70, because here we said hover for it to go to negative 70 top, so it's coming like from 0 to negative 70. So those are the transition effects. Okay, so let us continue. Now I want when I hover on GitHub for it to turn black, Instagram the color, LinkedIn the light blue color. So how do we do that? Now we're going to use this background. So let me just copy here background, box hover up to there. But now I'm going to specify which box. Here I gave it 2 classes. So this one is GitHub and it's also box. So I'm going to say I'm going to use this GitHub for this GitHub div. So I'm going to change this box to GitHub. Now when I hover on GitHub, what effect do I want to have? GitHub, it's the parent element, I want first this span to change. So I'm going to say span, that span color. I want it to turn to something like black. So background color, I want my span to turn to black, but not necessarily black. Hash 333. 333, that's the color code for it, something like light gray. As you can see, when I hover on GitHub, it turns that background color, but this other one is still the same. So then the color, I want the color to be white. The color to be white. So that so when I hover, as you can see, inside it's white, outside it's black. Okay, the same. Now the same for the tooltip. I'm going to come here, and then I'm going to press enter. Control Z. I'm going to press enter, but I'm going to put a comma first. A comma, it's like saying and. So we're going to have another style effect. So this is the first style effect for the span. Now we want to, as another effect on this, we want now for the tooltip. So I'm going to copy and place, copy paste that one up to there. Then copy up to hover, and then now when we hover on this GitHub, I want the tooltip to have the same effect. So as you can see, this tooltip, it's now black and the color GitHub is white. Okay, and then I'm going to say and. Now that comma, it's for and. Now I want this pseudo element. As you can see, the pseudo element, it's still color gray. So I'm going to also add another hover effect. So hover, I want the dot tooltip before. So the dot tooltip before also to turn color, that this hash 333. Okay, as you can see, all of it, it's that color 3. But the problem with this, when I stop hovering, you can see that tooltip, that before, that pseudo element, it's coming back to color, to the light gray that it was. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to hide the opacity of that tooltip. I'm going to set opacity 0. So opacity 0 first, and then when I hover, only when I hover at it, its opacity to become 1. Okay, so let me say opacity 1. So when I hover on it, the opacity is 1, and it has these changes that we've placed down here. But when I stop hovering at it, the opacity is 0. It does not show itself. So opacity, it's 1. It has these changes, these effects. But when I stop hovering, the opacity is 0. So after doing that, you can just copy paste this code, and you can now change the color to here from GitHub to LinkedIn to Instagram. So I'm going to press on Alt, and then I'm going to type there down, so that I can style those 3 at the same time. So I'm going to say LinkedIn, and then I'm going to copy paste to Instagram. So you press on Alt, and then you come down there. You come down here, and then you type in the word Instagram. Okay, so far so good. Now you are just going to change the color codes here. So for Instagram, there's a color code that I've put up here, and it's this one. So you're going to copy paste that color code, and then you're going to paste it here on Instagram, and then same for LinkedIn. So that is the Instagram, and then the LinkedIn one. You're going to copy paste this color code, the LinkedIn one, Control C, and then Control V here in our LinkedIn. Control V. So we're going to paste. So as you can see, these are the changes. This is what we've done. So if you have any question, you can write it down in the comment section. So thank you for your time. Have a nice day.